really tragic. I really don't know what I can do about it. I've tried to do. I have a crusader, I have a mashal in my hand on this one. And for the longest time, I had a card which said WLQ, Women Leadership Quotient. And no matter who I met, for any other area of work, I would always start with saying, how many women do you have across what rungs? How are you fostering their growth? What are you doing about it? But I think a lot of it rests on the women themselves. I think COVID also has bashed up the women leadership quotient to a large extent because, when they sat at home, they realized, that everybody's dependent on them and the dependency of all the family members on them became higher.
Welcome to the third IMA conclave, and today we have Ms. Neena Chatrath with us. Ms. Neena Chatrath has over a decade of experience guiding businesses towards excellence through leadership and quality initiatives. As a trusted advisor, she focuses on unlocking organizational potential through business and behavioral interventions, working with top leaders to drive growth. Her expertise spans CEO development, succession planning, and performance reviews, enhancing leadership and organizational outcomes. She has held key roles including independent director at Vision Spring and Oriental Hotels and partner at DHR Global, Avatis Partners and Hedrick and Struggles. As founder of Enhance Consulting, she helps organizations shape their leadership and strategic direction, transforming leaders and fostering excellence. Welcome, Neena, madam.
Thank you.
How are you liking the vibes here?
Oh, very nice. Very energetic vibes. Everybody's plugged in. Very nice.
And a women-run show.
Totally.
So we'd just like to ask some questions to you.
Sure.
Beginning with my first question. How important is it to have a mentor to grow as a leader?
I think it's exceedingly important, and not just a mentor. I mean, I have lived my life, professional life, with multiple mentors. They've all been seasoned professionals.
Wonderful.
Maybe many years ahead of me.
Okay.
Someone could have been my ex-boss. And every time that I'm in a crossroad, and I don't know how to, kind of move ahead, I've always gone. So I think it's absolutely critical to have mentors.
Wonderful.
And not just in a professional life, but otherwise also, in life, you need
Mentors.
Sage advice, you need wise advice. It always helps.
It always helps. True. What advice would you like to give to your 25-year-old self?
Be a little calm.
And how were you at 25, if I may ask?
I think if today I've been able to hide my aggression, I was overly aggressive. And I think one advice, I have zero regrets in life, but one advice would have been, calm down, everything will happen. I think I was just in too much of a hurry, I want to do this, I want to do that, so I think that excellence was running throughout in every aspect.
That's wonderful. You also look like a model. So did you try your hands in modeling at some point in time?
Kya nahi kara hai?
Oh wow, we would like to know more about it.
No, nothing. I think I have a very dear commercial photographer friend who's, kind of come out of advertising. And he used to always say, your angles are nice, let's do a shoot. So one day he just gave me a real shoot. It was for Citibank.
Wow.
I still remember Citibank home loans. And I said, oh my God, they're like, this is too much for me. And then we just went ahead. They were still shooting. I enjoyed it. And then another one came. And then I became the Vodafone face in Delhi. And I was in every billboard. And I think that's the time my father said, he just stopped me and he said, is this going to be your career? And I said, well, no. So I think the intelligence in me stopped me and pushed me back to my track.
Wonderful.
But it was fun.
Excellent.
I enjoyed it.
So then how do you think women work across the divides of opinions? Like you just mentioned that your father was of a different opinion.
So there are going to be divides of opinion, and I think earlier I never used to listen to the opinion, but I think over the years I've trained myself to listen in, and I think that's really helped. Why is someone saying what they're saying? And then go back to the background and understand it. I think I got a lot of feedback in my professional life because every time I would go back, I'd finish my work, finish a project, go back to my boss and trouble them. And I was always at their heels saying, give me more. So I think I always kept getting feedback. I got excessive feedback. And I think I learned how to understand it, distill the best of it for myself.
And how did you take the criticism?
Today, if I get criticized, I actually go into it in a very, very sure-footed way. Because if we do not listen to criticism, we can never become better. It's like, you have a piece of clay in front of you, and the potter is going to keep on making it more and more pretty. If he says, no, I made the best thing in the first go, you'll never have a best product, right?
Actually.
You have to keep on sharpening yourself. And that can only happen with criticism. It takes a lot to be able to take it, because there are times that criticism is not very well-meaning.
Yes.
So I try and distill it and say, is this well-meaning? What's at play here? Understand it, but accept it.
Wonderful, wonderful. We talk about women in organizations. So according to you, what is the positive impact that these women bring to an organization?
My reading is very simple. I feel organizations are gender agnostic. वहाँ पे ना कोई आदमी है ना कोई औरत है. You've got a role to perform, and you have to be good at it.
Right.
At times what happens is that there are so many men there that women have to fight for their space. But if you're good in your work, there's no one that can stop you. And I fought for my space many times. Many times I've been in a situation, should I let it go? And there have been times when I said, is this fight worth it? So
Yes.
definitely you have to create your own space. But to my mind, I don't think women bring in anything exceptionally different. I mean, a lot is being said about, women are very soft and all. No. I mean, I can be hard as nails. I take business decisions every day.
Wonderful.
So I have to be equivalent to what is required of the role. Whether you're a man or a woman should not matter. I think we have to take that out of our head.
And as a
Clearly.
business leader, do you think women bring something different to the table?
So what I understand is, and this is not me, but this is research. I've tried to understand research. Number one, I believe that women will take a lot of data, but they take longer to take decisions. And I think that's one thing, because I've taken all this as an internalized it and said, how can I take quick decision?
Yes.
Number two, what has happened is that women at times get detracted. They lose their focus. So I think I've also really very often tried to say, hey, am I losing focus? I'm my own, judge.
Yeah.
And the third area I feel women, which they supposedly bring, is they do manage to bring in a lot of inclusiveness.
Right.
So, they try and include everybody. And I think that's a very woman trait. A man would say, okay, whoever wants to come into the tribe, come in, and whoever doesn't want to, they will not go out of the way. But women try and make it more inclusive, because, at our homes also, we try and make it more inclusive.
Right.
So I think that trait is very good in a professional world.
Correct. And when we talk about the high-performing teams, so sometimes I'm sure you faced certain pitfalls. So what could these be?
So high-performing teams are actually, they cut both ways. So there are times when I have this very real experience I've had. I was sort of addressing this high-performing team, and I realized everybody was super specialist in their own areas. But was there a common point? Was there a common goal? The common goal was missing. So many times you have to create that common goal. We are high-performing individuals, but can we be a high-performing team? I think for becoming a high-performing team, there are different thought process that gets utilized. But as a high-performing individual, we have a bunch of high. So you cannot bunch up a set of high-performing individuals and say this is a high-performing team. Because high-performing team has a construct which are more team competencies.
Correct.
Which is about being inclusive, bringing in other thoughts, being open to others' ideas. Whereas as a high-performing individual, you may not necessarily have that skill.
Correct. So in terms of any organization, would you like to quote an example where the organizations were struggling and then a good leadership could help them sail through?
Yeah, definitely. Many examples come to my mind. So one of the ones that I remember very clearly is, and I think it can be said, when there are this amalgamation of cultures. So I was working with this company called Max Bupa. It's an insurance. So Bupa had its own culture, Max had its own culture, and then there are many other people who are joining the Max Bupa team.
Correct.
So everyone's coming with their own mindset.
Right.
So I think in the beginning, we got them all together, created a Max Bupa culture. And therein the leader who came from a Bupa, he really played a very big role. Because he understood that he has to imbibe something from the Max, something from Bupa, and create their own concoction of Max Bupa. And I think that's where one of the prime examples which I can think of right away. But there have also been examples where, on the flip side, where a leader is unable to hold an organization at the same, trajectory of growth.
And
So
what
they've
reasons
also-
do you attribute for this?
I think there are times when leaders stop listening. They're not
Okay.
connected to the market, they're not connected to the people. I remember one example that I have, which is very interesting,
Yeah.
where, I kind of felt that the leader's going a track or blind alley. And I remember talking to him and sharing with him, saying, you know what, you need to do some reverse mentoring. You need to have youngsters come in and talk to you about what is it, how do they feel, how do they work, because you're working across generations. So what he did was he said, okay, let them come to my office. And he sat here and he put a huge table and there were these 20 youngsters sitting there. How will they speak to this leader who's like 10 rungs higher? So I knew in the first few minutes it's not working. So I told this gentleman, I said, I don't think this is the way we need to do it. He said, what do you suggest? I said, let's go into a room, let's sit in a circle, and you're one of them. And he understood that. And then, I facilitated, made him understand that there are many things he's missing out on. So a lot of times leaders get blindfolded by their own success. I think at that time you need a bucket of cold water and you need some mentors that the guy has whom he listens to really understand what the reality is. Because your success is just good for today. It's not good for tomorrow.
Exactly.
So how do you make the success for tomorrow? What gets you here doesn't get you ahead.
Very true. Because in the fast changing world,
Absolutely.
you actually covered my next question. So where I was
In the
wanting
fast
to
changing
ask-
world, let me
yes.
tell you, everybody is confused. If you think somebody has the answer,
Yes.
nobody has the answer.
Nobody has the answer.
So a lot of innovation, a lot of experimentation, a lot of pilots. That's what we do with our clients.
And what would be the go-to mantra for these leaders?
No, they have to. They exist in a world which is changing dynamically in a multi-dimensional way. So how do you sort of grapple with everything and you don't know a thing what lies ahead? Did anybody know that, generative AI and in all its forms would become what it is today? We didn't know, right? It just come and hit us. So what happened is technology keeps growing and then it comes and hits you till you realize, like, today, can you live without WhatsApp?
No.
Yeah. So,
Not a
that's the point,
possibility.
right? So technology has to be understood, imbibed, but it cannot rule you. So what is it
Correct.
that you wish to do? How do you create a parallel track? So I'm working with a lot of companies, helping them understand deep technology. See, there are one set of companies where deep technology is disruptive technologies that they're bringing to the table.
Correct.
And then there are one companies, then they're figuring out, saying, what do we do with technology to better our ilk?
Yes.
So I'm working with this very interesting company. It's based in, one country across the globe. And therein they are trying to understand technology in a more significant way and saying, do I need to bring technology in my supply chain? Do I need to bring technology in my e-commerce platform? So where do I need to bring technology? You can't let the tail, wag the dog.
Yes.
It's
yes.
very
It
critical.
has to be the other way around.
It has to be.
So when we are talking about human capital, we are seeing lesser number of women in the workforce. What do you think about this and what can be done about it?
It's really tragic. I really don't know what I can do about it. I've tried to do. I have a crusader, I have a mashal in my hand on this one. And for the longest time, I had a card that said WLQ, Women Leadership Quotient. And no matter who I met, for any other area of work, I would always start with saying, how many women do you have across what rungs? How are you fostering their growth? What are you doing about it? But I think a lot of it rests on the women themselves. I think COVID also has bashed up the women leadership quotient to a large extent because, when they sat at home, they realized, that everybody's dependent on them and the dependency of all the family members on them became higher. So then that necessitated them to leave their job. And you're right, the numbers are not very good. And the numbers here look good, but they sort of keep dwindling and you barely find anybody here. And it's very sad. But yes, a lot needs to be done. A lot needs to be done.
So it was wonderful talking to you. And in the end, give us your life mantra.
Be positive.
Be positive.
Always.
So thank you so much for being with us. Thank you.